Thank you, Mr Gray. It's a real pleasure to have this debate under your chairmanship. When I submitted my request for this short Westminster Hall debate, the title had Keep Scunthorpe Standing in it. The Table Office informed me in their own inimitable way that this was sloganeering and would need to be improved. Hence the title we have today, Mr Gray. But it's upon Scunthorpe United I wish to focus my attention, and I should certainly declare my interest as a season ticket holder at Glanford Park, albeit in the seated Grove Wharf stand. But before I go further, let me take the opportunity to praise all associated with the club. It's a small club that, despite a run of results we'd rather forget, Mr Gray, is punching above its weight. It has a chairman in Steve Wharton who, like his father before him, has run this club sensibly in a business-like manner that some might say could be a role model for others up and down the land. It's not a club that changes its manager every 5 minutes, but rather grows managers out of its coaching personnel. It's been well served by Brian Laws, Nigel Atkins and now Ian Barraclough. They have built good teams out of scarce resources, and the players are to be applauded for their achievements over recent years. But the team of a football club includes all the other staff who work day in, day out to make all the backroom things happen, and they're brilliant at Scunthorpe United too. It's a club rooted in its community that does excellent work in education through Study United and takes on apprentices each year as part of an ongoing commitment to sports development. And it also has loyal, dedicated fans like David Beverley and his colleagues who have been working with the Football Supporters Federation on the Keep Scunthorpe Standing campaign. Currently, Mr Gray, the rules state that once a club has been in the Championship for 3 years, it must then go all-seater. Everyone fully understands the awfulness of the Hillsborough Stadium disaster on the 15th of April 1989, and the recommendations for all-seater stadia were a key component of Lord Justice Taylor's excellent report. There have been many significant strides forward in ground safety since that time. Thankfully, the world, in terms of stadia safety, is a different place today. The Right Honourable Member for Bath, in his excellent speech yesterday to introduce his 10-minute rule bill, very ably set out all these issues. As he explained, it's perfectly possible for the United Kingdom to have safe standing in the same way that the Bundesliga does. I'll gladly give way.
I'm very grateful that he's bringing this issue to the House and to the Chamber. AFC Bournemouth is a club doing very well in the First Division at the moment, and this is an issue that concerns them as well. There is a change in technology, which I hope the honourable gentleman will recognise, which does make things very different from the terrible times that he is referring to with the events that took place in that stadium. And I hope it's something that we may be able to embrace and say, can we actually introduce this now?
Nic Dakin.
My honourable friend is absolutely right, and I compliment AFC Bournemouth on the good season they are having. But he's right to draw attention to changes in technology, changes in management of stadia, changes in more modern methods to properly policing and ensuring safety. And these are the things that we need to look at. The rules on all-seater stadia need to be revisited for modern times. There should be no compromise on safety, but there should be common sense. If Scunthorpe's seating has been safe for all these years and appropriate safety management is in place, there is no strong argument for replacing that standing capacity with seating.
Would the member give way?
I'll gladly give way to my honourable friend.
I think the honourable member can give way. Would the member agree with it's very important to have safety? And sure, it's not impossible to marry safety with finance available as well, and that has to be a key factor in any football club, any football grounds at this present time.
I absolutely agree with the point my honourable friend is making, that it's about safety is crucial and should never be compromised, but also there needs to be sensible way forward. And in these difficult financial times, that is very important. The Glanford Park terracing has stood for over 20 years. It's under threat solely because the team has been successful. It's my contention, and that of the Football Supporters Federation, that the club and its supporters should not be penalised and lose the safe standing option because of the club's success. If the current rules are adhered to, a very small club will have to spend significant capital money at these difficult financial times to convert the safe standing area into seating. It will mean the club will have the invidious choice of paying even more for a larger seating area in order to maintain the maximum ground capacity of around 9,000 or reducing the ground capacity significantly. Seating the Doncaster Road end would reduce Glanford Park's capacity by around 1,000. This means fewer tickets will be available for big games like the recent Manchester United Carling Cup game or the forthcoming FA Cup visit of Everton. This would mean more disappointed fans and less revenue for the club. And there's the danger that such a move would harm the club because it will be forced to divert limited financial resources and energy to redeveloping the stand, money that would be better spent on improving the team or enhancing the supporter experience. I'll happily give way to my honourable neighbour from Brigangall.
For giving way. And I congratulate him on securing this debate, and as he's aware, obviously Glanford Park is in my constituency, and I'm delighted to work closely with him on this issue. Isn't there an even more important issue here, though, as we talk about localism a lot, actually? It's about what the fans want, and what the fans and supporters of Scunthorpe United are saying very clearly is let us make our decision about what we want and let us keep our terraces.
Nic Dakin.
My honourable friend, the member for Brigangall, is exactly right in many respects. That it is important to listen to what local people and local fans are saying, but we should not, and would not compromise safety. But it comes back to looking at it in the modern circumstances of today and recognising that Scunthorpe United is a 9,000 capacity average. Average crowds of 5,000. I'll just make a little bit more progress and then come in. The Football League, in its letter to the Minister for Sport and the Olympics on 22nd of October 2010, stated quite clearly this. Football League clubs, particularly in Leagues 1 and 2, are evidence that standing at football is safe when managed correctly. And I think that's a very helpful statement. I give way to...
I'm very grateful to all of them for being very generous. It's important that safety is stressed. Cost is also critical. AFC Bournemouth is in dire straits, as in many other clubs. This solution of allowing standing using new technology would actually help. But the point I wanted to underline and ask whether he agrees is the atmosphere that will be created by having a standing capability. Every time a goal takes place, Mr. Gray, or there's, the enthusiasm builds up towards a goal, everybody does end up standing up anyway. There is a sense of atmosphere that will encourage more people to come through the gates and actually help the gate receipts and help the actual running of the club itself from the cost perspective.
The honourable member makes a good point about atmosphere in grounds and atmosphere being a very important part of the football experience. Scunthorpe United, Mr Gray, is a very well-run football club which stays very carefully within its means. The club moved to the purpose-built Glanford Park in 1988, where the affectionately named Donny Road End has always been safe standing. Now, this small club with a capacity of just over 9,000 and average gates of around 5,000 is being caught up in safety rules designed for much larger grounds from another age. If the club remains in the Championship for another year, the safe standing capacity will have to be removed and replaced with seating. This will cost money at a time of scarce resources, reduce the ground capacity and take away what choice and enjoyment, as the Honourable Member for Bournemouth has pointed out, from those fans who prefer to stand. What's more, once the ground has gone all-seater, it will not be able to revert back even if the team spends the rest of its life in the lower divisions. Cardiff City were allowed to retain standing for 6 years in the Championship, so why shouldn't Scunthorpe United, the smallest ground in the league, be given similar dispensation? And there are much larger grounds, such as Carlisle United's, in the lower leagues that are not affected by these rules. So can I ask the Minister a couple of questions? Will the Minister look at the experience of safe standing in other parts of the world, including Germany, and review the current requirements for all-seater stadia in the Premiership and the Championship? I give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you, Mr Gray. Can I first of all congratulate my honourable friend on securing this important debate. I think it's only right and proper that there should be a full debate on this issue, but could he explain or tease out some of the assurances that he outlined regarding ground safety that will ensure that there will never be a return to the circumstances that resulted in the disaster at Hillsborough in 1989?
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention. It's a very important question he asks, and obviously Lord Taylor's report was a very thorough report. And in that report, many things were the cause of the problems that occurred, but it was not the issue around standing which caused the problem. Nonetheless, all-seater was seen as a very important part of the solution. And what we have to look at now is the experience across the world, particularly in Germany, where there is a very strong record of safe standing, which demonstrates that that can be done. But I agree with my honourable friend, in no way should there be any compromise on future safety in the interests of standing, but we should make sure that any standing in the future is safe standing. But I would draw attention to the fact that Scunthorpe United's ground has always had standing and it's always been safe. Okay, give way.
And it's an excellent debate to have secured. And I echo your earlier comments about Scunthorpe being a role model club. But on the very point that's just been raised, I've got every sympathy with what you're saying, but I am extremely nervous because since the Lord Justice report, we've seen a transformation in the safety and improvement in grounds. It just makes me very nervous.
I think, as I've said all along, in no way should safety ever be compromised. But we only have to look across to the Bundesliga to see an example there of one of the best leagues in the world managing safe standing alongside seating, using the modern technologies that we now have today to allow that to happen. But I agree with the comments that the honourable members have made that in no way in progressing this, and I welcome my honourable friend from Waltham's point that this is the right debate to have, but in no way within this debate should we prejudice safety. That would be the wrong thing to do. So the second question I'd like to ask the Minister is that, in particular, will he review requirements for small grounds like Glanford Park and allow the Football League to use its discretion where local circumstances and common sense prevail to provide dispensation for small clubs like Scunthorpe United to retain some safe standing capacity? Mr Gray, Scunthorpe has had a safe standing for the whole of its history, a history that has seen 3 England captains play for the North Lincolnshire side, Kevin Keegan, Ray Clemens and, of course, Ian Botham. I thank everybody who has attended and contributed to the debate today. Up the iron.